Good afternoon, everyone. I, on behalf of Sakal Publications and ILS Law College, welcome each and every one of you for the event, Shining a Light on Rights, Empowering Sex Workers and Their Children. For years, we have seen the red light areas and the people residing in those areas as separate entities from the mainstream society. They were seen as a disgrace to the so-called sophisticated society, and moreover, people were threatened by them. But the works of people like Girish Kulkarni, Prajakta, Tejasvi Sevekari, Nalini Jamila, and many more have helped change the perspective of the government as well as the society towards them. They have been significant contributors in the betterment of the lives of the sex workers in many regions of the country, and they continue to help the destitute and outcasts of the society to find a life of dignity. Today, we have gathered here to discuss the problems in the lives of the sex workers, their children, and the experiences of these activists, lawyers, doctors, and writers who have been prime force to voice their concerns in the public. We have gathered here to shed some light on the rights of sex workers and their children. We are here to shed a light on their lives, their dreams, and their future. I am reminded of Maya Angelou's beautiful verse here, and I quote, "You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise." And I believe that the contribution of our esteemed panelists and all the people sitting here would help them rise from the life of shame to a life of dignity and respect in the society. Let us start by giving them a status of humans first and consider their work as profession. Let us try to make the world a better place for the humans of red light areas. And so, I invite the panelists to take their seat on the stage. Please. Thank you. We have with us the author of the book, Up Against Darkness, Medha Deshmukh Bhaskaran. I request Deepa ma'am to felicitate the author. Medha Deshmukh Bhaskaran is the author of Chhatrapati Shivaji's best-selling biography, Challenging Destiny, now a national bestseller. Her book on the sensational world of pharmaceuticals is called Prescription of Life. Her historical fiction includes Frontiers, a relentless battle between Aurangzeb and Shivaji, and Life and Death of Sambhaji, both by Penguin Random House. We extend a very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Next, we have with us the Executive Director of Saheli Sangh, Ms. Tejasvi Sevekari. I request Ashutosh sir to felicitate her. Tejasvi Sevekari is a postgraduate in medical and psychiatric social work and is working in the field for the past 28 years. She is a certified trainer and coach to conduct empowerment workshops of Empowerment Institute USA. She is on the advisory board of the National AIDS Research Institute, BJ Medical CRS, and AIDS Clinical Trial Network Global. Her focus is on HIV-related issues in general and women in sex work in particular. She is closely working as a supporter of the National Network of Sex Workers, India. She is a recipient of national and international awards. We welcome you to the panel, ma'am. Next, we have with us the Assistant Professor of ILS Law College, Miss Isha Saxena. I request Ashutosh sir to please felicitate her. She is specialized in criminal law and is also pursuing her PhD. She has also completed her diploma in medical jurisprudence and forensic science. And the next, we have the award-winning journalist, Ms. Vinita Deshmukh, as the moderator of the session. I request Deepa ma'am. Vinita Deshmukh is presently the editor of Corporate Citizen Business magazine and consulting editor of Money Life. Her longest span in her career of 36 years has been with the Indian Express, where she worked in several editorial positions for 20 years. Her high-profile awards include the prestigious Chameli Devi Award for her Doe Chemical Investigations, the Ladli Media Award for her RTI story on a woman constable, the Statesman Award for Rural Reporting, won twice in 1998 and 2006, the Acharya Atre Award for the Marathi translation of her book, The Mighty Fall. She has also won the Web Wonder Women Award in 2019, instituted by Twitter India along with the Ministry of Women and Child Welfare, Government of India. In 2022, she was awarded the FICCI Award for Excellence in Journalism. Besides the conventional pen, Vinita uses Right to Information Act for her investigative stories. She has penned 6 books so far. We are very happy and honored to have you with us, ma'am. Now, I would request the principal of ILS Law College, Dr. Deepa Paturkar, to accept a token of her appreciation and gratitude in helping and being an enthusiastic partner for us in organizing this event. I request Ashutosh sir to please felicitate her. Thank you. Now, we would like to begin with the launch of the book, Up Against Darkness, which has been the prime reason for all of us to gather here. I would request Ashutosh sir and Principal Deepa ma'am to join us on the stage. I would request all the dignitaries to please launch the book. Let us keep the claps going on for this revolutionary book. Thank you, everyone. I would like to talk a little about the book, but before that, the necessary instruction that please keep your mobile phones away from your faces as well as keep them on silent mode. Thank you. The book Up Against Darkness, written by Medha Deshmukh Bhaskaran, is based on the founding of Snehalaya and the revolutionary work of Girish Kulkarni, Prajakta, and their colleagues for the sex workers, their children, HIV patients, and destitute children. Sakal Publications is proud to have published this revolutionary book. Sakal Prakashan has published 800 plus books so far in its journey that began in 2011. We have published books in Marathi, Hindi, English, and a few books in Gujarati and Kannada languages too. The Hindi title Ayodhya recently received the prestigious Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, that is FICCI Award. The number of books published in English is increasing considerably. Though Sadanand More sir writes in Marathi, but we have published the English translation of his Lokmanya Te Mahatma book. Our books cover diverse topics such as current affairs, education, entertainment, and more. From nutrition to parenting, health to agriculture, our experts, authors provide insightful content that touches every aspect of life. Now, moving forward to our panel discussion, I request Vinita ma'am to take charge from here and begin the session.
Hello, check.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. And I'm really honored to be here, particularly because of the subject. I have read through Medha's book, and I think each one must read it because it really tugs your heart and makes you wonder how we can lead normal lives when there are so many women and children of a particular section who are tortured, assaulted, burnt, chili powders through their throats. And if you read the book, you know that you not only have to have a compassion, but each one of us must be active on this front. And Mr. Girish Kulkarni and his wife Prajakta's and his entire team's relentless efforts since the last few decades have been fantastic. And I really congratulate Medha for having touched that subject so deeply and written it comprehensively along with the laws, the technical aspects, the human emotions and human interest tales. So first I would like to ask Medha, what is it that inspired you to write this book? And a lesser known person, you know, though he's done such great work.
So, you're welcome.
So welcome to Mr. Asim Sarode. He's also a panelist. Yeah.
You want to introduce him?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can introduce him.
So we just take a break to introduce Mr. Asim Sarode, though I don't think he needs any introduction.
Rightly put, ma'am. We still would like to go ahead with the formalities. We have with us the advocate and human rights activist, Mr. Asim Sarode, a name that has become synonymous to scrupulous justice. I request Ramgir sir to please felicitate him. He believes in upholding the democratic values and has stood up for it fearlessly. He has initiated cases on untouched topics like social boycott by caste panchayat, which has been instrumental in bringing about the law. He actively participated in the drafting of the Maharashtra Protection of People from Social Boycott, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2016, which got approved by the state government. Asim's law practice is beyond any description as it involves a lot of constructive activism and creative socio-legal work. He has also drafted National Agricultural Produce Price Confirmation Tribunal Act 2018 and it was presented in the Parliament as private member bill. He is the recipient of the prestigious Ashoka Fellowship from Washington that recognized him as a social entrepreneur for his work in the socio-legal field. He is the only male advocate to receive the Majlis Fellowship that is given to women advocates to work on women's rights. We are honored, sir, for your presence in the panel. And ma'am, you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome. So Medha, could you just tell us what made you write this book?
So my writing journey, can you hear? My writing journey started as a medical journalist in Dubai, and I worked for Khaleej Times as a freelance journalist. So when I was there, I got little bored with the subject, medical subject, and I thought I must write a book on some personality which will inspire the young generation. And then that time I found out there were 250,000 books on Napoleon in English, and that there was not a single biography of Chhatrapati Shivaji written in English. So I thought, why not I should try that. So that was my journey to write inspirational books, and I really am happy that I did it, and that book has gone to be a national bestseller now. When I visited Ahmednagar, how I came to write this book, and you will be surprised that at a senior age, I had to face a lot of civil and criminal suits in Ahmednagar district. So I had to go there repeatedly. And when I was there, I met this person called Girish Kulkarni, who has been working for 35 years for the better. He has actually adopted sex workers and their children and abandoned children and discarded children as his own. So it is not an exaggeration to say that if somebody has impressed me after Chhatrapati Shivaji, it is Girish Kulkarni. And before I go ahead, I must thank all the students who have come here and my friends, and all my friends who have come here today. And I would like to tell them that only when you read the book you will know what kind of wonder Girish Kulkarni has done. Because as a woman, I also did not know laws correctly, what are my rights. And I got entangled in many, many problems as an innocent NRI coming to India after many, many years. So I thought if an educated person like me, I suffered so much, what about people like sex workers? Why? How do they suffer? And then I thought I saw Girish Kulkarni helping them, and a lot of people in Ahmednagar helping them. One of the person have come from Ahmednagar. She will be also talking to you. So that is why I thought of writing. It has taken me 4 years of research to write this book. I've interviewed about 100 or 150 people. And I tried to grasp the laws which are written in a little difficult language. For me, it was difficult to decipher them or decode them, but I tried to make them simple in this book. And thank you very much, and your views will be welcomed.
Thanks so much, Medha. You know, generally, like you have written in your book also, that all of us associate prostitution through Meena Kumari in Pakiza or Alia Bhatt in a recent movie, and make it feel like a glamour and, you know, something like to do with ecstasy or something like that. But ma'am, you know, you have been working in this field for 28 years. She is the one of the founders of Saheli, and she has been working with the HIV, AIDS patients, children of sex workers. So ma'am, could you tell me that the book describes in such a, you know, the terrible narration of their lives. So has anything changed, you know? Like the laws have come, there's so many social organizations. So what is your experience and what do you think are the changes that need to be made on both sides, authorities and people?
Yes, I think we need to recognize that there is violence in the life of sex workers. We can't just deny that fact. There is violence with the children of sex workers. There is trafficking. Both three things are the realities, but we also need to understand that the entire sex trade is undergoing massive changes now. So we also need to take into consideration the trend which is changing. Both sex work and sex workers are changing. There is a shift from brothel-based sex workers to non-brothel-based sex workers, which is becoming very visible since last few years. HIV prevalence program, I think it actually rests on the shoulders of sex workers. because of the tremendous efforts put in by sex workers, the peer-led organization, the peer education model, awareness among sex workers has improved a lot, and the prevalence we were successfully able to control. So I think we need to also consider their contribution in HIV prevention. We see sex workers with different perceptions which we have. I think if you hold to one perception, then you are going to lose the other reality. So if we are accepting there is violence, there is trafficking, there is voluntary sex work. So that is also one reality. You like it or you don't like it, this is a fact in our society. And the moment we are open to understand the facts, the realities, the changing trend, I think we will be in the better position to support those women who really want to get rid of sex work, those who really want to come out of sex work, but at the same time understanding that it is a need of few sex workers financially to support their children, to support their families, to continue with sex work. So, you know, if they have entered sex work by way of trafficking, we need to have stringent laws to prevent trafficking. Now, what is happening in the current scenario that when they are into the trade, when they are into sex work, the anti-trafficking organizations along with the police, they do force rescue operations most of the times. They dump them into shelter homes and that's it. In true sense, no reintegration of the sex workers is taking place. There are few exceptions obviously, but it is very difficult. So having stringent preventive laws and providing the safe working space for the sex workers and education and protecting the future of the children of sex workers, I think those things we need to do. But definitely the things are changing. And so there are many organizations who are working for HIV with sex workers, children of sex workers. There are many organizations like Saheli, which is the only sex workers collective in Pune. So they are working on right-based approach. So all the approaches are going towards giving the dignity of human being. I think that we need to consider. The roots might be different, but the aim is giving dignity as a human being. So that's it from me.
I just want to tell you another thing why I wrote this book. Imagine 1996, when HIV AIDS was a new disease and people thought that it was might be transmitted by air. Nobody knew what it was. And it was a dreadful disease because death was certain. There were no antiretroviral medicine then. They were just coming out. And being a microbiologist, I have studied that disease. Now imagine in Booth Hospital of Ahmednagar, a girl called Lalita comes. She is completely covered with fungal infections, completely covered with pus. She is suffering from tuberculosis. She is suffering from so many other diseases. And she is rolling in her own filth. Okay, she is lying there in Booth Hospital in Ahmednagar. Even the doctors are scared. And the stink is there for 1 kilometer area. The stink is prevalent. You can smell it. Can you touch this person? Can you even go near it? Even the nurses were scared to touch her. Why I wrote this book is when I learned that Girish Kulkarni he did not have car, he did not have a three-wheeler, he did not have a two-wheeler. He went there with a hand cart and nobody was ready to go. There was a doctor called Marcia. She was from Vellore. This man goes inside, doesn't show any disgust on his face, lifts her in her hand and puts her in his cart and brings her to his office and cleans her wounds with soft cloth with warm water. People tell him, you will get this disease, you know. He will say, what she said about dignity, people must live in dignity and they have to also die in dignity. I cannot leave her. Whatever happens to me, happens to me. That was very touching for me. I would not have done it.
I think I read that chapter and I think it is like, it gives you goosebumps, and the only other person I know is Mother Teresa. That's what I thought about it when I read that chapter. But before I come to Professor Isha, Asimji, I would like to ask you, she mentioned about voluntary sex workers, those who are sold and forced into the trade. There are, like she said, there are several laws that have come to place. They are improving by the decade, if not, though they are not implemented. But when you read this book, you realize that there are human rights violations of all kinds. I mean, they are so treacherous, brutal, that you cannot believe that anybody can do this to a human being. So as a human rights activist, what would you observe regarding the way the women sex workers, their children are treated despite laws, despite law enforcing authorities?
First of all, I must congratulate and actually, express my thanks to Medha madam for writing this very wonderful book. Because without living or without process of living those worries with them, it is not possible to write a book with such in-depth sensitivity. And that is very important. I don't think Immoral Traffic Prevention Act can be taught just like that reading the law book or the statute, but these or such kind of books are very important if you want to learn Immoral Traffic Prevention Act as one of the important social legislations. And for that I am thankful to you.
Absolutely.
Now, answering the question, at various levels we can see that there are some uncomforts or discomforts, and those discomforts are not talked about. Women generally face various discomforts at various levels, but they show modesty. They show, kindness, not to talk or not to oppose those discomforts or persons who are creating discomforts. And when it comes to sex workers, they are in a framework where we don't see them as part of our society. So there is indirect division that it is their society and it is our society. Many times the people in our society says that our women are safe because they are doing some sex work. That is also very inhuman, that analogy. I don't accept that, because that begins the acceptance for human rights violation of sex workers and their exploitation. As Vinita madam said, it is definite violation at each step of living for the sex workers. And I think students from law colleges, they need to really look into doing some audit of human rights violations in such areas. Talking with the sex workers and then from their lives extracting the issues which are very prominent and shows that it is human rights violation, whether it is their human rights violation, their children's human rights violations, or human rights violation by their partners. Like Tejasvi will tell you, they are having their regular partners in the sex worker area as well. As she said, brothel-based sex work is having some definite and different problems, and non-brothel work is increasing because of the technological advancement, and that too is having some issues related to, even serious issues related to human rights violations. But then neglecting towards human rights violation. I'm talking very responsibility, with responsibility that, neglecting towards human rights violations and worries of others is unfortunately considered as maturity in our society. And that is why no one, like I also used to sit there as student in this law college, but I never seen, getting support from the students, like my peers, my co-students, while I was working on such issues. While doing practice also, they just want to take experience and then move on, because changing the society is not aim or objective or purpose for today's advocates, and that's why the unnecessarily importance of these law firms, then appointment or getting appointment in the law firms. So they are becoming cog in the wheel, unfortunately, and nobody is working for the purpose. Law is very strong instrument, and that's why I am talking about auditing the human rights violations, auditing the social justice situation in such areas which where people are living in disadvantaged situation. And just starting from the title of the law, Immoral Traffic Prevention Act. So, we need to ask question to ourselves, who are we to title their lives as immoral and our lives as moral? That is the beginning of the basic issue, and that's why the law requires lot many changes, because the law as the society to think them as an object, and that's why human trafficking is also the another word where we see that one object is being trafficked to other place, other area. So we need to change the words, phraseology, and then we can see the law which can be useful for them. Who made this law is also one of the questions, and I must tell you that Immoral Traffic Prevention Act is long back challenged in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court is still not considering it to run the procedure or the formalities in the Supreme Court with, in an expedite manner, because it is not issue related to some class of voters. So, as voters, political people, even society gives importance to them. But then Tejasvi knows that when we were running an, I think, drive to get them listed in the voters list. That was so difficult that time. So, becoming voter is important for such disadvantaged groups to show that they are also having authority and right to cast vote, and so you give importance to us as well while drafting some development, drafting some law for them. So asking them to sit together and then suggest that what kind of law, what type of law and what type of provisions of law they want if we want to regulate the sex trade.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, what you're saying is right, The entire mindset of even educated people or the educated lawmakers is totally hostile towards this fraternity. And most of us, which includes me also, are just living in a society where we have a curtain and we don't want to see the other side. But I want to come now to Professor Isha Saxena, that there have been a couple of laws for the sex workers to protect them. So could you tell, one was the Sita, and after that it was some amendment has come. So please explain what are the laws that protect her and her children, and are they as powerful or good for her in implementation?
Definitely. Women we consider women as a part of vulnerable groups. Vulnerable as in, if we look at the historical background, the whole system of prostitution, as we quote it as prostitution now, it started with, we had Devdasi system in India. So Devdasis were the women who were dedicated, who were offering themselves and their services to God. They used to resort to music and dance and used to entertain people as well. During the British era, they were treated as, they were downlooked upon, they were treated as objects, and thereby the whole system of prostitution actually began to take place. Then the mindset of the people of the society was such that it demanded enactment of new legislations. So we have, initially we had SITA, now we have Immoral Trafficking Act, Prevention of Trafficking Act. Then we have Prevention of Children from Sexual Offences Act. We have Juvenile Justice in Need of Care and Protection. But the whole point is the definition of the word prostitute. The definition, no one understands why a woman has become a prostitute. It's very easy for us not to talk about sex because it is a taboo in the society. and also we download someone and we say that she is a prostitute. But whether she is a prostitute by consent, when we say voluntary prostitution, is it actually voluntary? This is a question which we have to raise to ourselves. What is the difference between will and consent? So it's one thing to be willing for something. It is another thing to just consent for something. Sometimes we just accept what is the situation and we end up giving our consent, that we approve, we say that yes, we are accepting this activity. But then one thing is willingness as well. So this is important to understand, that whether a person is engaging in such a thing by will or whether only by consent. This is a question which we need to debate upon. So these acts are there in place, but the problem lies with the implementation. I think Aseem sir would also contribute to this by letting us know that how many cases are actually reported and what is the attitude of the investigating agencies, of the police authorities, and because police is one stakeholder who is responsible for getting the accused, getting people for justice, and the whole criminal law is set in motion when an FIR is lodged. So this is one thing which we need to discuss upon. That is what I think.
Yeah, thank you. What you said, just suddenly brought to my mind one of the chapter in the book where this young girl, a daughter-in-law from a very good family, and then she goes out and she is sexually assaulted by someone. So, but when she comes back, her father-in-law thinks it is below the dignity of the home to even enter her, though she was the poor thing, was sexually assaulted. It was not her fault, right? And she was banned from the house, and by, force, compulsion, she got into the sex trade. And there are many such examples of educated girls, ladies, who just by sheer bad luck, by misfortune, by the attitude and approach of their own family members, have turned into this sex racket, which is indeed very, very tragic. The police part of it, of course, being stakeholder. Would you like to add something, Medha, to this regarding the kind of women that have come into the sex trade? Then I'll go to the police stakeholder part.
So I have written small verses in this book, verses and laws I don't know how it is related. But I want to ask the lawyer, celebrated lawyer here, with a small poem, which is written in the book. So when victims become perpetrators with all their might, do we have any moral right to ask them questions? So they've been victims. So Girish Kulkarni, what he says, when the children are on the verge of being victims or the perpetrators, save them. It is not just, he is not even looking after the dignity in life and death of sex workers, but he is also in saving their children before they become perpetrators or victims. There is a story here in this book of Tai Pawar, one girl. She and I are born in the same year, and we did our matriculation in the same year. And being so many tutors in my life and having a father who was in a very well government job, I got only about, say, 70% marks in my matriculation, and this girl got 80% marks. And then she was a Pandita in Hindi, and how she had to enter sex trade, it was very disturbing for me. And this book is dedicated to Tai Pawar, actually. So that is what I have to say, and this question I have to ask you: when victims become perpetrators.
See, yeah, actually, in India, we are not having very sound and strong law or procedure to protect the victim or to identify even the victim. And that's why victim protection and identification program is very much required, as it is in the US and in some countries in the UK. Victims identification is very much required, and then we can decide who is the victim. And unfortunately, police are not having training to identify the victims. they work on a very colonial concept of registering offense under each category of offenses. So they are given some laws to be implemented, and their higher authority sees that, whether Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, under that act you have registered some offenses. If not registered, then that means you are not working on that law, and you are giving some way to the sex workers by some corrupt ways, and you are allowing sex work in your area. So they need to register the offense, and for that then victimization is also allowed, because they are protectors of law, and they are becoming breachers of law. So that is where, we can find the catch, where victims are not getting identified, and so giving protection is not authority or responsibility given to the law maintaining authority.
No, when I was writing this book, I realized prostitution is legal in India, right? Am I right?
Not legal. Not illegal
Prostitution
per
is
se.
not legal?
You can say not legal,
Per
illegal
se.
per se.
Per se it is not legal, but not even illegal. So not legal, not illegal. Then soliciting is illegal.
Yes.
Brothels, illegal. Keeping a man in your house who lives on your money, illegal. So if I'm a flower seller, this is a simple question, I don't understand law. If I want to sell flowers, I can't pluck them, I can't display them, I cannot have a shop. So when I'm selling flowers, I am already a criminal by default. So all the sex workers in this country are criminals by default. Am I right or wrong?
Right. No, as Isha madam pointed out, there is another problem, like there is no good definition of prostitution, there is no proper and sound definition of public placing. So, like those women, if they are standing on the street with makeup and exposing their body, then, they can be criminalized, they can be arrested. So, under some circumstances, they can be arrested, and those circumstances are so wide that it is always depending on the police authority whether to arrest or not, or whether to accept some bribe and leave them. And then another issue is again related to I think taking statement, registering the offense, because there is no mechanism for the police. So it is authoritative always for the police to act and function in accordance with the law, and they do everything legally according to their knowledge and their belief. But as a part of legal responsibility, if you ask me if they are following their duties, we don't see them following their duties. So arbitrarily they arrest, arbitrarily they just leave those some of the prostitutes on whimsical ways. Then another issue is related to the brothels. Tejasvi knows, you might be knowing also, that many times it is not their buildings, it is not their premises, it is not premises of their ownership, but they have rented those premises and they are doing their business there. So if living on the earnings of the prostitution is illegal according to the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, then why the persons who have rented those premises, knowing that they are doing their business there, or doing the sex trade there, why they are not got arrested? Why there are no offenses registered against them? So these are the issues, because see, they are from the, like if you go to the Budwarpet area, might be you can find some Gokhale, some Gokte, some Kedkar, some, some Soman, someone who are owners of those buildings. And these women are doing their businesses in the whole building premises and giving their rent. That means those owners, they are also earning some amount of money from the sex trade. So why there is no offense register at all since today, till today against them?
That's
so
right.
This is arbitrary process.
Yeah, of course, you said that the police are whimsical. They're not whimsical. Some political guy has to just say, go raid that brothel out of Kunnas, and then they'll do it. So that's how the life goes on there.
Vinita ji might be knowing also some names of the politicians who are running some brothels there.
Yeah, I'm sure there are many of them, besides the ones that I know. So coming back, Tejasvi, I just want to have this angle of police as the main stakeholder and as the main, I would say, the main criminal for not doing their duty. And you also mentioned about new Supreme Court guidelines that have come that are going to make the police do the right thing to protect the legality of the sex workers or the victims. So first, could you tell us your experience or vast experience on regarding complaints to the police or any episodes that you have, and then tell us about the Supreme Court new guidelines which are still not implemented.
Yeah, police is like part and parcel of life of sex workers in the red light area. And arbitrary use of law is very rampant. They just don't use ITPA or CETA or ITPA, whatever, Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, but also state laws like Bombay Police Act, which is not meant for sex workers. It is applicable, it can be applicable to any person who is doing indecent behavior in public place or, you know, creating nuisance in the public place. But most of the time, this law has been used against sex workers. They don't know, they accept the law, they accept the charges, they will go to the court and pay the fine. And this is happening for, I think, generations together now. So, unless this entire chain has been broken down by the system, and that's why not only Saheli, but many organizations who are working for the rights of sex workers, including the National Network, which we are part of, we demand decriminalization of sex workers. We are not saying that we are justifying trafficking. There should be stringent laws, but unless you decriminalize sex work, things are not going to change. Things will not be safer for the women. Because what is happening right now, there is no clarity, complete ambiguous structure of the law. It depends entirely on the police personnel whether he is going to consider the same woman in sex work as a culprit or a criminal, as a criminal or a victim, you know, because he can book her under ITPA by soliciting in public place or running brothel or whatever, but at the same time he can also consider her as a victim of trafficking, because our entire legal system is based on abolitionist approach, which is for abolition of prostitution without considering any other thing than victimhood. So that's the reality, that's the foundation of the legal structure. So anything is happening towards respecting the dignity, that's a long dream, I think, but at least, you know, reducing the violence against sex workers, that step needs to be achieved, which is a very difficult thing even today, even though there are many organizations and collectives coming up of sex workers, still it is very difficult because of the legal structure. And it is very complex for the sex workers to understand under what clause she has been booked. What is happening? The brothel keepers, they will hire lawyers paying huge amount of fees to them, and they will ask the sex worker to sign, you know. She don't know what I am doing and for what I am booked and for how much money the lawyer is going to charge from me. And, you know, all these relationship with the businessmen or politicians and the brothel keepers are so evident. You know, it is becoming another layer of making money from the sex workers. So it is entire system of exploitation, and if we really want to address it, we don't have a choice but to decriminalize sex work. So that is very important. And Supreme Court guidelines, I will just answer this. Supreme Court guidelines, we welcome them wholeheartedly, because that was the first time when the Supreme Court has recognized the nuisance created by police, the harm police are doing to the sex workers, and arbitrary use of law. But still those are guidelines, that is not law.
So what are the guidelines, I mean?
Guidelines are saying that the police should treat sex workers properly, they should behave decently with them, they should not use any abusive language, abusive behavior against sex workers. Whenever they are going for the police raids, they should not do any violent act against sex workers. Those things are definitely given very clearly into the guideline. And secondly, when they are picking up the women and sending them into the correction homes or the shelter homes, if there are women who are adults, not minors, if they are adults and they are voluntarily doing sex work, then the the entire survey of those protection homes should be done, because currently we have ample evidence that abuse, harassment is happening against sex workers who are dumped into those shelter homes. There are many attempts done by sex workers to commit suicide, to run away from shelter homes. You know, all those ample evidence is available. So, to make the lives comfortable, to give the dignity of sex workers, the demand for decriminalization is still there, even though these Supreme Court guidelines are there, because they are guidelines. So it depends entirely on the police and the authorities to accept them, to respect them or not to respect them. It is that evident. And main important, another guideline which has been given in the Supreme Court, by Supreme Court, use of media, because police also conducts videography of sex workers while doing the raid. When they have combing operations in the red light area, they use videos, they take photographs, and putting it up into social media is so easy. You know, anybody can do that. Even by media also, the guidelines are saying that even the media should not use the photographs of sex workers or the video of sex workers, which will reveal the identity of them. So I think that is also a very important step.
Meera, you wanted to?
I just want to say that I spent a day or two with sex workers of Ahmednagar district, and they were more empowered and they knew more laws than me. And that is why I salam Girish Kulkarni for that, you know. And they are not scared of police. They know their law, when they can be arrested, why not. They can always call Snehalaya and their lawyers come. And those women are really empowered, and I really I admire them, you know, for their boldness.
That is the reality. In many places where the interventions are going on for years together, you will have substantial number of peer leaders, but there are couple of them. You know, if you see the numbers of sex workers, this representative sample is very, very, very small. So,
Yeah, actually that reminds me of a movie by a young film director and author, Aditya Kriplani, Tickly and Bomb. That's the name. And he has written a beautiful story. You should read that book or see the movie, in which, you know, the sex workers, they decide to become activists and to fight for themselves. And they do that, you know, quite brilliantly. But at the end of it, the police system and the other system, legal system, is so harsh that they just give up and they want to lead the same life and the dungeon that they are in. So that is like, you know, the basic tragedy. Coming to the next question, you mentioned about the police trying to behave well, or, you know, everything seems to be so difficult and rather impossible. So I would like to know from each one of y'all that what are your suggestions, recommendations, not only for the authorities, but even for the people who are in front of us, for citizens. So could you start, Isha?
So, right to live with dignity. This is a human right which is not only recognized as a fundamental right but under Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We say everyone is a human being. So as I mentioned earlier, first of all, how many of us we deliberate or we think before downlooking or before insulting a particular person? Just because a person belongs to a red light area, when he's approaching any one of us, not only the authorities, or maybe complaining about violence. Sometimes violence is also, it seems that, you know, you have consented to it. So the kind of force or kind of atrocities which you undergo, it's by your choice. So first of all, I would like, the masses must be made aware and the masses must be sensitized about the basic human rights of every human being. And we all must learn to respect it with dignity as a responsible citizen of this country. And whenever, now law also imposes a duty upon all of us that if we see anyone being insulted or any atrocity, any kind of offense which is being committed, we must report to the authorities and just not turn blind towards whatever is happening. So we must help each other, we must live, we are a society. And finally, law is nothing but what we have, as majority of us have accepted, and it comes down on paper. So we must respect everybody's human rights, we must live with dignity, and this right to dignity is also very wide subject. So under Article 21, we are all aware that we must follow and we must respect. We must not just insult, making anything as a stigma, keeping in our minds from where that person belongs. After all, that person is a human being. No one is a born, no one enters a profession by birth. So we must respect it, and whoever is in need of care, protection, and legal help or any kind of help, we must come forward and help that particular person.
Very good. Thank you so much. Metha, what about you?
See, during writing this book, I met one brothel, very brutal brothel owner called Musawat. Actually, I've changed her name in the book. So when I was visiting Shegaon, one small taluka in Ahmednagar district, so I had gone to Snehalaya's office, and there were about from age 20 to 50 ladies there practicing. So with this Musawat comes very beautiful, very well-dressed woman in her 50s. She comes and then I asked her, why were you so brutal? She used to beat the girls, make them eat their own waste. She used to shave their eyebrows, and she used to put chili powder in their private parts. And girls had died. So I asked her, why were you so brutal? What made you? And she's a rich lady now. Snehalaya stopped her from doing all this. So she said, who the hell are you to ask me question? We had 100 acres of land which was taken over by the government to build a dam. And when I was 13, we were left without anything, and we had to go from city to city. And nobody would employ my parents because we are from another caste. Nobody trusted us. They thought we are thieves. And my mother had to sell me at the age of 13 in sex trade. So who are you to ask me question? You are born in an educated family, your stomach is full, you got education. So she actually used F word, F go, to me. And I have written that in the book. And I agree with her. So displacement of people is being a major reason for this trade and brutality in this trade, you see. This was my experience, I don't know much about it.
Absolutely. There is no human element that is considered during such vast displacements, by the government across the decades. Yeah, what would you say, Tejasvi, what is the way forward? And then we'll have a round of questions.
Yeah, I think the only possible solution is to give dignity, exact application of the law, changes in the law towards decriminalization. I can see that's the only possibility, because many people come up with the idea of legalization of sex trade, but the experience of law, the people have not only sex workers, but from all the vulnerable populations and communities in India, the legal system is not protective of the poor. Legal system is not protective of the people who are from vulnerable communities. So for sex workers, it is going to be, as it is always a double stigma, it will give more benefit to the legal system to control sex workers, more systems, more corruption, more stringent actions against sex workers. It will not give safe working conditions for sex workers. It will not give any other facilities for sex workers. They may come up with a license system, they will declare zone. Then if you find somebody out of the zone, then you are going to get arrested. If your license is going to get expired, for renewal you need to go through some system again, which will lead to more corruption. And why law is going to stamp a sex worker again as a sex worker? If a woman wants to come out of sex work, there should be ample provisions available for her to opt for other livelihood. And unless we don't change the system of our society looking at sex workers, these things are not going to change. I can give you example of LGBTQI movement. The moment same-sex got decriminalized in India, things have changed for transgenders. Definitely. Same we are expecting from the system to decriminalize sex work. That doesn't mean we are promoting sex work. That doesn't mean there should not be laws to prevent trafficking. There should be stringent laws to prevent trafficking. But at the same time, decriminalization is going to be the only solution. That's what I feel.
Thanks. That was nice. Yes, Asmi.
See, open-ended authority given to the police is definitely objectionable, and that needs to be changed, first thing. Second thing is, we are always talking about the police and the brutality, atrocities committed by the police, but judicial system is also very insensitive while dealing with the cases of the sex workers. So I think judges require a lot of training of sensitivity and how to implement the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act in most applicable manner. That needs to be required to be trained to the judges. Because there are some possibilities and provisions where judicial creativity can be used by the judges, and as she said, judges can ask the victim, the sex workers, to come in his or her chamber and then ask whether she want to get rescue herself, whether she want to join her family, whether she want the judge and the court to call the family members of her family, and so she can go safely with them. So they never ask, they just see that how to impose fine on these women, and without considering that whether it is capacity or within the capacity of that woman to deposit that amount of fine. Again, you are putting her, the judges are putting her into a vicious circle of collecting money or taking money from a brothel owner. And giving that amount of money or depositing it in the court. So you are getting some deposition of money, but whether you are serving a life, no. So that judicial insensitivity, Justice Krishna Iyer had very rightly said that there is always scope for the judges to use judicial creativity. And judges in Indian courts are missing on using the judicial creativity, and that's why each and every court is going to the High Court and Supreme Court for no reasons. So I think that possibilities should be are required to be expanded. The second thing is, I was thinking in those days when I was working in the Budwarpet area, that the court shall set up in Budwarpet area itself. Even a model court.
Mobile courts, you're saying?
No, model court I'm saying. Where a retired judge should sit and then they handle the cases of those women. We can have a model where law college can take initiative and take a sample case. Don't always go for these moot courts and all this. These are so traditional and becoming so procedural. Rather than that, we can take some 2-3 cases from the sex worker area. We can ask some retired judges, like many retired judges are from this college, just asking for them for coming for a functional program. Let them come there at the Budwarpet area, and we'll set up a court set there, then we'll handle that case. Let the people say and understand how to deal with the cases, how to behave with the sex workers, how to ask them questions, whether to ask them questions, in what manner questions should be framed. So that needs to be trained, giving, it is requirement to give training like this to the judges. When I was talking in a judicial training college at Uttan in Thane district, so they said, we are not having such course available in our curriculum. So, they should include it. Rather than just behaving always with a punishment attitude and then marking the judges and their caliber on the basis of how many punishment given by them. This is very colonial and British aspect of judicial functioning, and that needs to be changed. So it is not only police, but the judges are also culprit when it comes to victimization of the sex workers and their lives. Because as I said, we are just doing objectification of their lives, and that needs to be stopped. Otherwise, judges are also, courts are also part in the human rights violation of the sex workers. The second thing is human rights commissions is one of the mechanism, but such quasi-judicial mechanisms are not functional in effective manner. That's why I had written one article in Times of India long back that they are becoming toothless tigers. And they are becoming rehabilitation centers of the retired judges and the police officers. So they are just working from Mumbai and Delhi. There is no mandate in the Human Rights Protection Act. Human Rights Protection Act actually is it requires lot many changes. It should be thrown away and new law should be implemented. So why not their benches or their functions being activated from such areas where people are facing problems.
Right.
And that is also one of the requirement. I think giving directions and expressing some sensitivity by the Supreme Court is not sufficient.
Right. Yeah, so from what I can understand,
I will, but the thing is, what I wanted to talk about this book is, I have talked to the sex workers' children. Imagine the kids, small kids, who have seen their mother servicing 30 to 40 customers a night. So they have the psychological effect on their mind. And I'm very proud to say that this Girish Kulkarni and his wife have been successful with their lieutenants, to put thousands and thousands of such children in school. And they run a school where 400 children are there, that is regarded as the best school now it has got, and 200 children are HIV positive in that school. But to put these children in mainstream, and some of them have also graduated in social studies now, and they are helping the society. So this is what I found very wonderful in that, you see.
ma'am is coming. So I just wanted to just round up by saying, from all that you say, that it is very tougher for the legal system and judicial system to come in place. However, we the people can start that movement individually to not have biases against a certain community. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. That has been an insightful and enriching discussion. Before we move towards the audience questions, we have a very special guest with us who has been closely associated with Snehalaya and have come all the way from Ahmednagar to grace us with her presence. Dr. Anshu Mule has been working in Shri Kamla Ayurved Hospital since 1998 as a specialist in infertility and chronic disorders. She has written extensively in various newspapers and spoken at various conferences and Akashwani shows on the topic of health and social awareness. I would request her to kindly share her experience of working with Snehalaya all these years. Please welcome her with a round of applause.
नमस्कार। शायद आप ऐसा सोच रहे होंगे कि बीइंग अ मेडिकल प्रोफेशनल और यहाँ जो अभी सब्जेक्ट चल रहा है, दैट इज़ अ क्वाइट डिफरेंट सब्जेक्ट एंड आई एम टॉकिंग in front of you. So all of you come to know that this book is regarding the whole work since 35 years Dr. Girish Kulkarni is doing with the help of Snehalaya and so many people who are with him. So as author told me, I am a part of Snehalaya, and what I am doing exactly over there are around 23 projects run by Snehalaya. Initially it was started with the sex workers and their children, but that was not only the sector where work was necessary. So many deprived people were there, and Girish sir used to find some solution for them. So I am a part of one project, that is Bal Bhavan, where 700 students, we are working with the 700 slum students. We provide them one room for study, and to develop the slum areas. That is the basic motto of Bal Bhavan. 5 people are working over there. I am a part of it, director of Bal Bhavan, one of the Bal Bhavan, me and my husband. Also, during COVID, in the first wave, when there was an ample migration of labor from all the part of India, they were migrating from Ahmednagar. Around 40,000 labor were in a trouble. They were given shelter, food, medical aids, and when there was a difficulty to travel to their places, the transport was also provided by Snehalaya. We were in the medical fraternity for them to serve 24 hours. Few other projects are there. Already you have already listened that it starts with the sex workers. We have a Snehalaya Adoption Center, and I am really proud to tell all of you that this Snehankur Adoption Center is the first center in India who is giving a maximum number of adoptions throughout the India and out of, means in abroad also. Childline, this is initially it was conducted by Snehalaya, and Childline also worked hard in Ahmednagar district, and it prevent human trafficking 100% I could say, because all are really working hard in with the help of Childline. Also for blind, physically challenged people, we have Anam Prem. 2023, Snehalaya conducted a huge youth camp. Actually, since years Snehalaya is conducting youth camp. Because why? What is the motto of youth camp? As Swami Vivekananda told, if we concentrate on youth, then there will be a change in our nation. This is the motto. And this was a huge camp, first biggest camp in India, where 1,500 students were accumulated for that camp. 5 days they stay in Ahmednagar, meet with the several renowned personalities in the different sectors of India. Also, we gave a victim, for the victim female who can't afford the fees of lawyers, we gave them legal advice. We have a lawyers for that. They gave legal advice also for some time. Snehalaya, for a few days or months, Snehalaya provide them shelter. Also, we have just launched one project, Umed, in that for the needy women, single women and widow women, we started this skill development center, Ahmednagar. Manoyatri is also one of the center where psychological problem, the patients who have just wandering on the road, like a schizophrenic patients, they can't understand their physical and mental situations. For them also, we have a Manoyatri shelter home. We give medicine as well shelter over there. Counseling center is there. For unmarried women, girls, Kumari Mata, we have a shelter home. Throughout 9 months, we take care of them, deliver them, and send them back to their home. And we take care of that child. If she is willing to take that child with her, or she want to donate, that girl can do it. And also, this is the very challenging work of Snehalaya, that Snehalaya is working as a mother institute for the organizations who are in the society, who are working for the society. For example, I could tell that if the funds are in a less amount for some organizations, Snehalaya actually told them to donate for them. Though they are in the need, they are doing Bal Bhavan establishment in Baramati, in Pune also for the slum children. Community radio station Snehalaya is having. Why Snehalaya is in the need of this community radio station? The people from deprived area, they have a ample of problems, and they have a good stories also that is delivered over there. For the old age patient who need daily nursing, and the children of themselves are unable to take care of them, Snehalaya is having that center also. Just now, Snehalaya conducted Bharat Bangladesh Cycle Yatra, Sadbhavana Yatra. This is the second yatra, and in this yatra, 100 youth are in that yatra, because most of the youth don't know exactly what are the challenges of our society, or which sector I could work something for the society. So in that yatra, youth are taken with the Girish Kulkarni sir. He is right now in Bangladesh, so that they could, if we go into the society, then we could come to know the exact problems of our society, to show them they are with them. Also, Snehalaya, as Medha ma'am told, that Snehalaya English Medium School got is stood in the first 3 schools from all over world which are working for semi-urban underprivileged children, and yet the result is pending. Let's see what will happen. So exactly, I am just gather all the parts where Snehalaya is working. So there is not a single part where Snehalaya is not working for the deprived. If anyone is willing, they can join. Not for the Snehalaya, there are so many organizations in Pune also. They can join this. Then what is the final motto of Snehalaya? What I think most of the time, that real happiness lies in the happiness of others. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for that very inspiring talk. And really, we all need to give to the society, besides, carrying on with our life. So open the floor to the audience, and a lot of enthusiastic and bright youngsters. So go shoot the question. Yes. We need to give them a mic.
Hello, good afternoon, panel. My question is actually to Tejasvi ma'am and Medha ma'am. I have a couple of questions. So when we were discussing this, I think we created a bifurcation of us and them, the sex workers. While doing that, we also homogenized the group of sex workers. We called all of them women. But I think that there is also, as Tejasvi ma'am said, a question of double stigma that comes. Most of the people who are into sex work belong to the minority communities, belong to the vulnerable communities. So what is your take on that? And second, we did not include transness in any of this. And I think that for a very long time, whenever our country or anyone discusses sex work, there is elimination of transness in that discourse. So I really want to know what your take on that is.
Yeah, if we see the statistics, this is the fact that 80% of the sex workers are women. So whatever happens gets directed to women. But that doesn't mean that there are no other sexual identities who are involved in sex work. Pune might be the only area, red light area, where you will find a lane of transgenders who are working as sex workers. There are many transgenders who are involved in sex work. There are many men who are doing sex work. There are many bisexuals who are doing sex work. So all gender and sexual identities of people, they are engaged in sex work. But just because the number of women is higher into sex work, I think they are always getting focused or highlighted. And that might be the reason that we always see sex work as mere system of exploitation only, and not beyond that. And when it comes to transgenders or other sexual orientation identities, because they are also engaged in other professions. All transgenders are not sex workers, all men are not sex workers. So they do some other professions also. So, where they operate, how they do their business, that also matters. And when we say this 80% women who are into sex work, we address most of these women who are from the very lower economic strata, like the red light area or the floating population who operates at different public places and go back to their houses. But there is also an increasing number of women and girls from the lower, not from the lower, but from the middle to upper economic strata. We know them with different names. We don't call them sex workers or sluts or prostitutes. We call them escorts. We call them, call girls and all other names. But that doesn't mean that class is not there, which is doing sex work. They are doing the same thing. The names are different. I hope I answered.
If I am allowed to add a little bit. Thank you so much, Tejasvi madam. You have explained it so well. And before I go for the addition, I thank Medha madam also for writing such a beautiful book. On behalf of Snehalaya, I am thanking you because I am a member of Snehalaya Pune team and working actively for one shelter home here. And want to add to this point, Snehalaya is working for LGBTQ plus group also. So it's not only the women who are in sex work, but this other, as you said, the other sexual identities also. And empowering them is also the equally important objective of Snehalaya's work. And for that we are doing a lot. We have got a Snehojo T1 and T2 projects for that. And every December, the first week of December, where the week is celebrated as HIV week, we have got full one day workshop sort of for these other sexual identity people to make them aware of their own problems, to come out with their own problems and solving their problems and guiding them. So that's about Snehalaya's work for this category.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay, there's a young boy there, so maybe
Yes.
after you, him.
Yes, yes. So I have a question for you. I know that sex work is not criminalized, so there's no point of asking it to be decriminalized. But sir, do you consider that the prostitution should be legalized in India? What is your take on that?
So it will be very difficult if we legalize the sex work, because we need to then define the criteria, like how to legalize it. Whether there will be some qualification for the sex workers to get themselves legalized. Like, this much of experience in the sex work, then you can, yeah. So this is very difficult. In Sweden, buying sex is illegal than selling sex. In India, selling sex is illegal. But though buying sex is illegal in Sweden, they could not stop this exploitation. So we need to somewhere accept that sex work is related to power stations, muscle power, political power, religious power. So sex work will be there. So how to regularize it? That should be the issue of lawmakers, and not just suppressing it, as madam said that previously it was Suppression of Immoral Traffic Prevention Act. Then we realized that suppression is not possible. So now it is Immoral Traffic Prevention Act. So while changing the words also, we could see that the perspective of law is changing, and that should really change a lot. And that's why the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, with its all vague definitions, is challenged before the Supreme Court.
Good evening. And my question was that, as we have seen today, that we are discussing the legal aspects related to the topic, the life of sex workers. So my question is whether you think it is important to introduce this topic as life of sex workers into the higher secondary and senior secondary education system of India, and how can it be implemented so that it can lead to a more inclusive society?
See, what I generally think is we should have different categorization of the laws. As we just push this law into category of criminal laws, it should not be. We should have some category or criteria of social legislations which needs to be then introduced to the school education. Because see, Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, Beggary Prevention Act, now the discrimination against the HIV, persons with HIV and AIDS, that should be stopped. All these topics should be included in the social justice and human rights curriculum, and that should be introduced at the school level. So we can change the perspective of thinking, we can change the implementation, because from these schools only some will become lawyers, some will become judges, some will become police officers. So all the implementing authorities should know the sensitivity, because see, we cannot bring a law that you should maintain such level of sensitivity. We cannot bring that law. But by giving knowledge of law, we can definitely make the change. Now, what Snehala is doing is, like, they are not restricting themselves to the project-based manner. So, because there are, see, circles of rights. Every right is connected with another right. We learn that in the law schools. So, in that manner, if every organization starts functioning, then there are various issues to work on. So, you cannot address just one issue because we are doing this project, we'll work in this square and we'll not address the other issues. So, that is not done. What Tejasvi is doing is, like, she is always trying to expand the scope. But as she said, it is very difficult in cities like Pune, where sex workers are more in numbers, huge in numbers, and it is sometimes manageable in some areas of Maharashtra to work on various aspects of sex work and then exploitation.
First of all, thank you so much for all the valuable insights we got from the panel discussion. Sir, I have a question to you. As you rightly put, the regularizing the sector is the problem, since it is a part of the informal sector. So my question to you would be, since I can identify two recourses, one which is being discussed is recognizing it as an official work. However, I would like to disagree with this, because somewhere if you officialize the work, it would maybe lead to perpetuating the exploitation which has been occurring against this community. So what according to you should be the provisions included or excluded in the present legislations so that we can assimilate this community with the mainstream community?
See, that is a very wide question, and if you are interested, or many other students are interested, we can draft a legislation which can be ideal, or which can be reaching close to protecting rights and following the responsibilities as well as obligations of by the police and the judiciary. But generally what I think is, if any law is not fulfilling the criteria of fitting into reasonable restrictions, then putting unreasonable restrictions on someone by making a law is ruling by the law. We believe in rule by law. Sorry, right? So that needs to be considered, and we can draft a legislation. We can, because while learning here in the ILS Law College, I could see that we play a very wider role in bringing changes, and it is not just bringing changes, it is transforming the whole judicial system, and that we can do. So we can form a legislation, draft a legislation, and we can suggest it to the concerned authorities that this can be the law. Even we can do intervention in the present pending legislation, pending appeal in the Supreme Court, that if you are thinking of making some law, then this is the set of rules and laws we are suggesting. So you can consider this as one of the ideal thing. So we need to take some step to transform the situation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, I think what Asim said makes sense, because if you regularize things, it is often that vulnerable community get punished. So we are not saying, when we say decriminalization, we are not saying absence of law. We are definitely saying that there should be law, but that law should be meant for giving justice to the people. Formalization, if we consider sex work as a formal or informal sector labor, I think it is our discomfort towards somebody is providing sexual service in exchange of money. So we really need to question ourselves, who are we to decide that if somebody else is doing that, that is not good. That is the first thing. If she is doing, we need to make it sure that she is safe, she is not getting exploited. There is no violence happening against her. And where are the rehabilitation programs? Government rehabilitation programs are big failure. This rescue rehab program model is a failure, not only in India but everywhere. So we really need to have a factual understanding of the lives of sex workers, the changing things which are happening in sex work, and then addressing it with the law. So we need to make sure about our own discomfort also when we consider ourselves as citizens of India. So I think that is also important. And I remember when NHRC has declared during COVID sex workers to be added into the informal sector workers, the strong anti-trafficking lobby in India has thrown out that guideline, that advisory, and NHRC has withdrawn that advisory, mentioning that sex workers needs to be included as informal sector workers. Because see, the moment you speak about rights of sex workers, people think that that means you are promoting sex work. It is a very misunderstood concept that if you are speaking about somebody's rights, it is not promoting some negative things, some exploitative practice, but it is meant for giving, understanding that person, as a human being, and respecting the dignity of that person. That's it. Thank you.
Very well said by both of you. And here again, there's a discrimination. Just because poor lady does it and she is called a prostitute, and an escort does it and she roams around in a BMW, and then it's forgiven. So again, there we have a very funny situation and strange situation today. Anyway, is the time over, or do we take a couple of questions? Anybody? Yeah, there is somebody. Last question. Yeah.
So, hello. My question would be that it's a system that's primary.
Could you stand up? I can't. There she is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for a sex worker who suppose wants to get help, so a system which is primarily dominated by men, be it police, be it lawyers, be it judiciary, men who belong from mostly upper caste men who have a lot of power, and for whom it is very difficult to empathize or even understand a woman's situation, or even empathize where she is coming from. So how do she navigate a system that is not made for her, or that doesn't represent her? So my question is that.
No, maybe we can, but the fact is that it is not only upper caste men, it is men who have lobbied themselves to become politicians and to become, influential people. So it is nothing to do with a certain caste. It is just across castes, just that they have the power of the money. We have seen Brijbhushan Singh, where the athletes had to go to the Supreme Court of India to request a FIR. And after that, when the FIR was lodged, 7 of them, and Indian Express carried the entire story on page 1, and we knew how horribly they have been sexually assaulted by this man, but because he's got money, he's like still swinging around and having a nice time. And another thing, I'm shocked to know that you mentioned that the lobby of anti-human trafficking lobby, and that's what's happening in India, that lobbies are the one that are favored by the government. I just have to give a small example which really bothers me. Since the Indian Express, I've been writing about this Dr. Kalyan Gangwal who went to the Supreme Court for gutka. And the Supreme Court has given an order that you cannot sell gutka below 200 grams, so that automatically the youngsters will not get addicted like school children and all. but the tobacco lobby is so strong that they have actually illegally thrown out this. And you know what's happening to the society. So, you know, the lobbies in India are really supply money to the political leaders of all political parties. And so we as a larger society of individuals now need to come together and individually keep empowering the lesser people around. You know, I think that is the first thing, and maybe you could answer that question.
No, I will. What happened, you know, in this book, you will see, when Girish Kulkarni and his wife and Snehalaya people went against the politicians and the goons and the pimps and the police, they went against, you know, to save trafficked girls who are trafficked. Actually, trafficked word itself is wrong, as the celebrated advocate says, but I don't have any other word. So when you are trafficked for sexual exploitation, the police call them prostitutes. So when this Girish Kulkarni and his wife went against them, they were threatened that they will be injected with HIV positive blood. A goons tried to attack them. Then these people said, nothing doing, we have to attack the goons. And then there was a physical fight. So even to help somebody is not easy in India, okay? It's not easy.
Ma'am, do you think that presence of more women or women from more minority communities in the system itself, more women lawyers, more women judges, more women police, will make it even a bit better?
It's not question of being a man or a woman, you know. Both can be sensitive, both can be insensitive. Even actually women can be more cruel in this sex trade. So it's nothing about man or woman. It's about having somebody very strong try to go against the society and help these people. Actually, I have written in that book, they have broken open the cocoon of comfort of their life and thrown themselves on the social battlefields. How many people we have like that? Are you ready? I'm not ready. But Girish Kulkarni did it, and that's why I wrote this book. You know, I'm just impressed. And we need at least 10,000 of such people to save our country. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll close in here, and I always believe that it is our parents who make us weak and timid. Ki jhanjat mein mat ye karo, first do your studies first. So no parent tells you that you should be socially empowered. You know, that is like a crime, as if you're ostracized from your family if you try to do that. But I think that every youngster 18 years and above should think for himself or herself. And I'm going to give us very small example for that. When I was the editor of the Indian Express, my young colleague, a woman, she came crying and sobbing to me. I asked her why, and she said, since the last 48 hours, she's been receiving vulgar messages on her SMS, at least 20-25 per day. So I told her, you being a journalist, how did you keep quiet for 48 hours? And let's go straight away to the cantonment police station. She said, no, my father and mother will get angry with me. I said, it has nothing to do with your parents, because your life is now at stake. So anyway, I just forced her and I took her, and that's another story. But my point is this, that we are born and brought up as timid people to be completely close our eyes against everybody else and just work for I, me, myself, and my selfishness. I think that should change, and that is going to be my next book, that is Strong Fist. You know, through examples, I want to tell how you all can empower yourself. And I hope I can write that book, and I hope you all get inspired, because students from ILS Law College are brilliant people, young people, who become really big in various aspects of our society. So all the best to you all, and I hope you all just lead a life of giving also. Thank you. Medha wants to say something.
The last one, Shivaji must be born, but not in my family, in some other family, you know. Mujhe nahi chahiye aisa bachcha, mera to protection chahiye. So last, I had a small verse I want to say, and I want to finish. When peace demands suffering and shame, when peace demands suffering and shame, war remains the only option that is most humane.
So are you ready to fight? God knows.
What an epic ending to the most interesting session we have attended so far. Thank you everyone for such an enriching experience. I now request Ashutosh sir to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Nupur. I'm very happy that we could organize this panel discussion and would like to thank the team of ILS, especially Deepa Paturkar madam, for making this happen. It so happened that we had published this book and I myself had gone through the book before publishing it. While reading, I went through many gut-wrenching sessions. Even the foreword to the book written by IPS Mahesh Bhagwat, he also shared me and he has written that reading the book in one sitting was very difficult. And I'd like to thank Medha ma'am to do the hard work of getting the stories in the mainstream. My respect for people working for the welfare of sex workers and their children and the abandoned children grew immensely after reading this book, after publishing this book. And we were thinking that what else can we do than publishing the book. So in our internal discussions and after discussion with Medha ma'am, it came up that we can held a panel discussion. And then when we were thinking about how to organize the panel discussion, then we thought that it would be more fitting if we are in Pune to get ILS on board and do it with ILS, because if we can influence the young minds, we can start on this transformative journey. I'm very happy that the panel discussion has commenced, and this is just a beginning in a way, and we plan to do many more such panel discussions across India after doing this first panel discussion. I would like to especially thank the panelists today, Advocate Asim Sarude sir, Tejaswini ma'am, Vinny Deshmukh ma'am, Medha Tai, and Isha madam from ILS. The panel discussion has been very insightful. They are the experts and practitioners in the industry. A lot of suggestions have, noteworthy suggestions have come in this panel discussion, which we will try to put it across through our newspaper. We had also, there are two suggestions for us. Next time when we do the panel discussion, we'll make sure that the judiciary is also present. Actually, yeah, the police was, Chauhan ma'am, Sushma Chauhan was supposed to come, but due to some difficult circumstances, she couldn't join us. But next time we'll make sure that we also have a judiciary. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Parulji from ILS for the smooth coordination of this event. Nupur and Amruta from Sakal Publications for organizing, and along with other colleagues. I would like to tell you that the books are available outside for sale at a discount. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want, this is not the chronologically right thing, but this is very important panel discussion we had, and the day is Asim's birthday also today, so it's a coincidence.
Wish you a very happy birthday. Thank you for coming, sir.